Hello, World of Tank Blitzers. That's Littlefinger. Happy Friday, May 17th, and 2 weeks in a row for the store review. Yes, Littlefinger is indeed back. Let's jump into the garage and go through this review. Object 590 in containers. The only reason I'm really even brushing on this one here is because I don't own this tank. Really hard for me to talk about it without having driven it myself. I don't know the characteristics that well. 5% drop chance. You're gonna have to open 30 of them to guarantee yourself through charms. And if you are gonna take this gamble on this tank, I've noticed that buying the containers in gold is a much better deal. Keep in mind, when I first started doing these tank or store reviews, I was using 750 gold per dollar as kind of the baseline. Now I've lowered that to 600 gold per dollar kind of as the baseline. So you can see here that some of these are working out to be about 400, 450 gold per dollar if you're buying them in cash money. So try to buy your gold in the store. Even better yet, go onto the Wargaming's website and buy it there. You're going to get more gold per dollar if you do it there. We will talk about the tanks when we get down there, but I did want to spend a minute or two talking about the lucky containers here, because earlier this week I did a video on a lucky 5 container that I spent $10 on. I just wanted to see if they had updated the list of tanks that were in those containers, and sadly they have not. So I went through, as you know, you are guaranteed a tank. If you get a tank that's already in your garage, you get a container for the next tier up. So I went all the way through tier 10 and ended up obviously getting a tank that I already had, because I have all of those. 7,500 gold. So if you need to see what are in those containers, watch that video as I'll show you every tank in the containers. Keep in mind, this is probably the better deal here. The 65% off for $10 guarantees yourself a tier 8 tank. Like I said, at 600 gold per dollar, that's about 6,000 gold for a tank at tier 8, which is a good deal. I typically see those tier 8 tanks running about 7,500. Now, you might be happy or you might not be happy with the tank you draw, but that is the gambling on those containers. All right, we're going to scroll through everything else here. Like I said before, these resource kits and so forth, they're just meant to try to fool you, make you think that you're getting a lot. These do not work out to be a good deal in your favor. Like I said, go to Wargaming's website and buy the gold there, or buy the gold in the gold section down here below. So we're going to talk about the Object 2684 here. I enjoy this tank. I'm not a huge tank destroyer fan, so if you are, really like playing the tank destroyer game, I think you'll like this tank. I do think the price is still a little bit steep. So you may have seen this tank in battle. This lower plate is really strong. Usually that is a pretty big weakness on tanks. For this tank, it does not seem to be that way. Your biggest weakness is going to be on these side cheeks here, so you don't want to get anyone shooting you from the side. You really have to stay face on, and you can wiggle back and forth and just make that a little bit harder to aim. What you'll notice about this tank, 2,700 damage per minute for equipment, and it hits hard. 658 on the APCR round. If you can get an HE in there, 800 damage. The downside is this 5 degrees of gun depression. The gun kind of sits here in the middle of the tank, making it that much harder for that gun depression to work in your favor. So there's some spots where it's just really difficult to get the gun depression to work how you want it to. So just keep that in mind. I would pass on the $47 one. This one here without the camo is probably your best bet. That's about in line with some of the other newer tier 10 tanks coming out. However, I'd like to see that at 17.5 if at all possible. So you can wait or pay a little bit extra. Tank's been out now for a good while, so prices will start to drop. We've got Steel Monsters, they're calling this one, which is a tier 7 VK4503 and the Churchill Mark 6 for 6,000 gold. Don't let the price fool you here. What I would say, I'll start with the Churchill. You're going to play this tank once or twice and you're going to say, why? I don't want to play this tank again. It's just too slow. You know, it really is pennable here on the turret. The hull is just a difficult tank to play well. The VK4503, I do enjoy this tank. It's got good mobility for a heavy, and it really starts to teach you how to use your armor profile and start learning how to side scrape and those type of things with a heavy tank with a nice accurate gun here. Let's see, 8 degrees of gun depression, quite nice. 2456 for a tier 7, nice damage per minute numbers as well. 220 average damage, so like you've got to reload and be on target a good bit. Well, that's not such a big deal with this being a heavy tank with decent armor. So really you're spending $6,000 on the tier 7 tank by itself, which puts it kind of a mediocre deal in my opinion. Another mediocre deal that we talked about last week was the Comrades for 17.5. This is, you know, if you look at it on a per tank basis, it's right in line with average, I would say. However, they are good tanks, so keep that in mind. I really enjoy the K91 because of its burst damage, we'll call it. There's 3.5 seconds between reload with the shells in the magazine, right? And a 16-second complete magazine reload. So in about 7 seconds, you can get those 3 shots off, and you're doing 260 damage each. And those numbers really start to add up, and at the end of the battle, you'll be surprised, you know, just how many shots you were able to get off. 7 degrees of gun depression, and the armor is pretty troll sometimes, especially when you are top tier. The troll armor is the Object 252U with the spaced armor here on the sides. And I believe the lower plate here is angled, or the side skirt here, inside the side skirt is angled a little bit. Pike nose, you know, it's just got so many curves on it. This tank does ricochet a lot of shots. And while I'm not ready to call this a must-own tank, it's kind of in that category, getting very, very close to it. However, you may already have some tanks in your garage. A lot of them do fit this mold and play style, so just be aware of that. And as we scroll down, new this week is the Smashing Platoon. The Chimera is a tank that I put in the must-own category. You've got a medium tank with good accuracy that hits fairly hard for a medium tank, doing 440 damage with 10 degrees of gun depression. So it's very versatile, and I think that's what makes this tank, you know, in the must-own category. A tank that you can potentially carry a battle by yourself in if it comes to it. The M4 Yo here is an interesting tank. I am not a huge fan of it, and here's why. We talked about that burst damage. It's got 4 shells in the magazine, but look at this, almost 7 seconds between that reload time. So there's not a burst damage that comes with this tank. And only 13.5 seconds to get all 4 shells reloaded. So it's kind of an awkward play style. Yeah, the reload time is you know, is pretty good for a heavy tank on a single shot by shot basis. But I do find it gets penned fairly easily. It's a little on the slow side. And it's been one of those tanks that have struggled yet to get that ace mastery. And however, the price for 2 tier 8 tanks is a good price here. So you can jump on that and get both, or I'd recommend the Chimera here by itself for the 8,500, but definitely not the M4 Yo here for 8.5 by itself. All right, moving on to the tier 9 French medium tank here for $24. Let me just do some quick math here. What that works out to be 14,400. That's too close to a tier 10 price in my mind. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit of value here. Maybe we could take this down to $20. And, you know, 12,000 gold equivalents. I enjoy this tank. Yeah, it's that awkward tier 9. But as you know, I agree with His Royal Fatness, who says that tier 9s can be some of the best tanks to play because they are built to be able to compete against tier 10s. And then when you're up tiered, when you're top tier, I should say, you know, playing against tier 8s is quite enjoyable. Tanks got very good mobility, very good accuracy, 2,600 damage per minute, 3-ton average damage, 10 degrees of gun depression, 60 kilometers top speed. So a lot of things work well on this tank, which is why I enjoy it. And honestly, my preference is on the speedier medium tanks. If I had to choose just one tank to play the rest of Blitz history. So yeah, so we've got the STG. We talked about this last week. This is a very difficult tank to play. Rear mounted turret. It suffers 5 degrees of gun depression there. Yeah, it's got a lower profile and it hits hard, 400 average damage, but that play style with a medium with not very good gun depression is difficult to play. So this tank is really for advanced players or collectors, you know, that just don't have that tank in your garage. The price is actually not bad, 7,500 for what you're getting out of it. So Fire and Ice, wow, we've done this so many times. I wasn't going to talk about last week. We'll talk about it briefly this week. You know, again, outside of the Pike Nose, the Object 252 is a far superior tank, but it has a lot of the very same characteristics. So I would recommend the 252U over the Glacial. And then the Blaze is a good tank destroyer for tier 7. Limited turret traverse, sorry as I spit that out. You've got 8 degrees of gun depression and hits fairly hard there with 400 average damage. And it moves pretty well as well. 5,000 gold, not a bad price. All right, so as I mentioned before, this is where you want to come and buy your gold if you can. Make sure you are getting 2x. So this is 17,500 gold, but you're going to get 35,000 gold. That's what I mean by the 2x gold. And this is where you know, you want to come out to get your gold. So that is all I have for the store review this week. If you're not new, or if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And of course, guys, have fun out there. Stay safe. Get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.